The day I learned what $7 million of betrayal feels like, I was wearing borrowed shoes and eating ramen for the third night in a row. The trust fund that should have secured my future had been emptied to save my brother's failing tech startup, without my knowledge or consent. But when Mr. Patterson from First National Bank called me into his office that rainy Tuesday morning, I had no idea his revelation would become the foundation of an empire that would make my family's fortune look like pocket change. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I still remember the weight of the manila envelope Mr. Patterson slid across his polished mahogany desk. It was surprisingly heavy for something that contained only paper. Documents detailing the complete evaporation of my financial security. "Miss Alexandra Westbrook," he said, his voice carrying the careful neutrality of someone delivering catastrophic news. "I felt it was my professional responsibility to inform you personally, rather than having you discover this through automated notifications." I stared at the statement before me, the balance prominently displayed where 7 figures should have been. $212.46. My trust fund, established by my late grandfather when I was born, meticulously grown through strategic investments for 25 years and scheduled for full access on my upcoming 26th birthday next month, had been almost completely liquidated. "There must be some mistake," I said, my voice barely audible over the gentle hum of the bank's air conditioning. The Westbrook Family Trust was valued at over $7 million last quarter. Mr. Patterson, a man who had managed my family's wealth since before I was born, removed his wire-rimmed glasses with deliberate care. "The withdrawals were executed properly, Alexandra. Authorized signatories made the transfers." Signatories? Plural? The room seemed to tilt slightly as realization dawned. My parents did this? The trust was structured with joint access between beneficiary and guardians until the maturation date. His clinical explanation did nothing to soften the blow. "Your parents maintained legal authority to make investment decisions until your 26th birthday." "Investment decisions," I repeated, the euphemism sticking in my throat. "And what exactly did they invest $7 million in?" Though I already knew the answer. Elliot, my brother, 3 years older, infinitely more charming, and perpetually in need of capital for his series of visionary business ventures that somehow never managed to turn a profit. Mr. Patterson's expression confirmed my suspicion before he spoke. The majority of funds were transferred to quantum sphere technologies over the past 18 months. The most recent withdrawal, approximately $3 million, was processed last Tuesday. Quantum sphere technologies, my brother's latest startup, supposedly developing revolutionary quantum computing applications that would transform the entire technological landscape. According to Elliot, they were perpetually 6 months away from a breakthrough that would generate billions. According to reality, they were burning through capital at an alarming rate with nothing to show for it. "Did my parents say anything about these transfers? Leave any message for me?" I asked, clinging to the desperate hope that there was some explanation beyond the obvious. "I was not privy to those conversations," Mr. Patterson replied diplomatically. "However, I did express concerns about the concentration of risk in a single, unproven venture. As you know, your grandfather's intentions were for this trust to provide long-term security and opportunity. My grandfather, Harold Westbrook, self-made shipping magnate who had risen from dock worker to industry leader through disciplined work and strategic foresight. The man who had bounced me on his knee while teaching me about compound interest and diversification when other children were learning nursery rhymes. The man who had looked past my gender in a family that still clung to outdated notions of masculine succession. The man who had established separate trusts for Elliot and me, identical in amount and structure, because both his grandchildren deserved equal opportunity to build their legacies. Elliot had depleted his trust by age 23. A fact my parents had carefully concealed from my grandfather before his death. I should have been notified about these withdrawals, I said, anger beginning to replace shock. Quarterly statements were sent to your address of record, Mr. Patterson said carefully. The Fifth Avenue apartment. My parents' address, where mail addressed to me was routinely managed by my mother's executive assistant. The apartment I had moved out of 3 years ago to establish independence, a decision that had been met with disapproval, thinly disguised as concern. Is there anything left to protect? I asked, professional training from my position at Gardner and Reed investment firm kicking in. Any assets that can be secured before my brother's company inevitably collapses? Mr. Patterson hesitated, the first crack in his professional veneer. Alexandra, I've known your family for 30 years. Your situation is concerning to me, professionally and personally. What aren't you telling me, Mr. Patterson? He opened a drawer, removing another folder not bearing the bank's logo. This is outside my official capacity, but under the circumstances. He slid the document across the desk. Quantum Sphere Technologies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Protection yesterday afternoon. The world seemed to stop. Not only had my trust fund been emptied, but it had been poured into a company that was already declaring bankruptcy. $7 million. Gone. My future reset to zero. My family's betrayal. Absolute. Does my family know? I managed to ask. The filing isn't public yet. I have contacts in the industry who provided this information confidentially. He hesitated. Alexandra, I'm telling you this because your grandfather was not only my client, but my friend. He would be devastated by these developments. I sat perfectly still, processing information with the analytical precision I'd developed in my career, evaluating investment opportunities for high-net-worth clients. The irony wasn't lost on me. I helped others protect and grow their wealth while remaining ignorant of the decimation of my own. Thank you for your discretion, Mr. Patterson. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. What would you recommend as my next steps? He looked momentarily surprised by my composure. Given the circumstances, legal counsel would be advisable. While the transfers were technically authorized, there may be questions of fiduciary responsibility and disclosure that merit examination. You mean sue my parents? The words hung in the air between us. I mean, protect what remains of your interests, he corrected gently, including determining if any assets might be recoverable from Quantum Sphere's bankruptcy proceedings. I gathered the documents with hands that refused to tremble despite the earthquake happening within. I'll consider all options. As I rose to leave, Mr. Patterson spoke again. Alexandra, your grandfather often told me you inherited more than just his financial acumen. He believed you possessed his resilience, the ability to build something from nothing if necessary. The comment struck with unexpected force. My grandfather had indeed started with nothing, creating an empire through intelligence, determination, and strategic thinking. Qualities he had recognized in me from an early age, much to my father's barely concealed disappointment. One more thing, Mr. Patterson said, reaching again into his desk. He removed a small brass key, weathered with age. Your grandfather left this in my keeping with instructions to give it to you if circumstances ever required you to restart the engines, as he put it. I believe today qualifies. I took the key, its weight disproportionate to its size. What? Does it open? A safe deposit box at our downtown branch, box 1763. He wrote the number on a card. Whatever it contains isn't listed in any official record. It was a private arrangement between Harold and myself. I slipped the key and card into my purse, this unexpected connection to my grandfather, providing the first glimmer of stability since I'd entered the office. Thank you, Mr. Patterson, for everything. "Your grandfather was right about you, Alexandra," he said as I reached the door. "Remember that in the difficult days ahead." I stepped out of his office into the bank's marbled lobby, the world continuing its normal rhythms despite my personal cataclysm. Executives hurried past with urgent purpose. Security guards maintained vigilant positions. Tellers processed transactions with practiced efficiency. And in the midst of this ordinary Tuesday, Alexandra Westbrook, heir apparent to a shipping fortune, rising star at a prestigious investment firm, beneficiary of a now-empty trust, faced the staggering reality that everything she had counted on had disappeared overnight. My phone vibrated with an incoming call. My mother's name flashed on the screen. The third attempt since I'd entered Mr. Patterson's office. Not coincidence, surely. Someone had alerted them to my meeting at the My Bank. I declined the call and walked out into the rain, uncertain of my destination, but absolutely clear on one point. The family that had betrayed my trust would not determine my future. Whatever my grandfather had left in that safe deposit box, whatever path lay ahead, I would forge it on my own terms. The $212.40 remaining in my trust fund seemed pathetically inadequate for rebuilding a life. But as rain soaked through my borrowed shoes, last season's designer cast-offs from a colleague that I'd accepted to maintain professional appearances, while living on an entry-level salary, I made a silent promise to my grandfather and myself. This was not the end of Alexandra Westbrook's story. It was merely the first page of a new chapter, one written entirely by my own hand. The downtown branch of First National Bank occupied the ground floor of a pre-war building that had witnessed generations of financial triumphs and disasters. My grandfather had once told me he preferred this location over the sleeker Midtown headquarters because real business happens where history lives. As a child, those words had seemed like another of his charming eccentricities. Now, they felt prophetic. I approached the customer service desk with measured steps, conscious of my rain-soaked appearance contrasting sharply with the polished environment. "I need to access a safe deposit box," I said, placing Mr. Patterson's card and the brass key on the counter. "Box 1763. The representative, a woman approximately my mother's age with an immaculate silver bob, examined the key and my identification with professional scrutiny. "Of course, Ms. Westbrook, if you'll follow me." She led me through a security door into a climate-controlled room lined with metal boxes of varying sizes. The atmosphere changed immediately, quieter, cooler, with the subtle scent of metal and paper preservation. This was where people kept what truly mattered: birth certificates, property deeds, irreplaceable photographs, family heirlooms, and, in my grandfather's case apparently, secrets. Box 1763 was located in the center section, larger than many surrounding it. The representative inserted her master key, then gestured for me to use mine. The mechanism turned with surprising smoothness. For something potentially untouched for years. "I'll give you privacy," she said, indicating a small consultation room nearby. "Take as much time as you need." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The box was heavier than expected. I carried it carefully to the private room, closing the door before placing it on the table. For a moment, I simply stared at it. This last connection to my grandfather. This potential lifeline in the midst of betrayal. With a steadying breath, I lifted the lid. Inside lay several items arranged with characteristic precision. A sealed envelope bearing my name in my grandfather's distinctive handwriting. A leather-bound ledger. A small velvet pouch. And beneath these, a stack of documents secured with a brass clip. I began with the envelope, breaking the seal with trembling fingers. "My dearest Alexandra, if you are reading this, then circumstances have required you to seek resources beyond those I provided through conventional means. I have always prided myself on anticipating contingencies, a necessity in shipping when storms can arise without warning and change course without logic. Your father and brother never understood this principle, believing their innate brilliance would overcome any obstacle. Your mother, for all her remarkable qualities, has always been blinded by devotion to the Westbrook name rather than the Westbrook values. You, however, possess something far more valuable than our family name or fortune. You inherited my ability to see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. In the ledger accompanying this letter, you will find detailed information about an opportunity I chose not to incorporate into our family's public holdings. A small shipping operation based in Providence, Rhode Island, Horizon Maritime Services. On paper, it appears modest. 3 aging vessels servicing regional ports with unremarkable cargo. In reality, it possesses something invaluable, exclusive. Docking rights in 6 development-designated harbors along the eastern seaboard. I purchased this company privately 2 years before my death, when urban renewal projects were merely speculative proposals. Those projects are now funded realities, and those docking rights represent the only maritime access points in rapidly appreciating commercial zones. The company is held by Westbrook Heritage Trust, a separate entity from the family business or your personal trust. You are listed as the sole beneficiary, with activation upon either your 26th birthday or earlier if necessary, due to unforeseen circumstances. The accompanying documents transfer full control to you immediately upon your signature and proper filing. The velvet pouch contains my first shipping acquisition, the Lady Elizabeth, commissioned in 1954 and decommissioned in 1972. I kept this model as a reminder that empires begin with single vessels and clear vision. Alexandra, I have observed you since childhood and recognized in you the qualities that cannot be inherited or purchased: discernment, patience, and the courage to stand alone when necessary. Whatever has brought you to this box, remember that true wealth lies not in accounts that can be depleted, but in the capacity to build what others cannot imagine. Navigate wisely, your grandfather, Harold Westbrook. I read the letter twice, my grandfather's voice so clear in my mind I could almost hear him speaking the words. Then I opened the ledger, revealing meticulous documentation of Horizon Maritime Services, financial statements, asset inventories, employee records, and contract details spanning 5 years up to my grandfather's death. The company showed modest but consistent profitability. Nothing spectacular, nothing that would have attracted attention from family members always seeking dramatic returns. But my trained eye recognized the strategic value immediately. The exclusive docking rights alone, in light of current development projects, represented potential worth far exceeding the company's operational revenue. My grandfather had created a lifeboat I never knew existed, hidden in plain sight beneath the surface of his public empire. The velvet pouch yielded a perfectly detailed model ship approximately 6 inches long, brass and wood crafted with exquisite precision. The Lady Elizabeth, my great-grandmother's name, the vessel that had launched Westbrook Shipping 70 years ago. Finally, I examined the legal documents, transfer of ownership forms requiring only my signature, corporate registration certificates, banking authorizations, and operational licenses. All prepared years ago, all still valid, all awaiting only formalization to place Horizon Maritime Services entirely under my control. I gathered everything carefully, returning only the model ship to the box. This last tangible piece of my grandfather's legacy deserved safekeeping while I determined my next steps. As I exited the bank, the rain had stopped, leaving the city streets gleaming in afternoon sunlight. The contrast with my earlier departure from Mr. Patterson's office could not have been more pronounced. Then I had been unmoored, adrift in betrayal and uncertainty. Now I moved with quiet purpose, grandfather's letter secure in my bag alongside the documents that represented not just an inheritance, but a challenge. My phone displayed 12 missed calls, 5 from my mother, 4 from my father, 3 from Elliot, each accompanied by increasingly urgent text messages demanding I contact them immediately. Apparently, news traveled quickly in financial circles. I stopped at a small cafe 2 blocks from the bank, ordering coffee and claiming a corner table where I could work undisturbed. While waiting for my drink, I made 2 calls. The first to Gardner and Reed, informing them I needed emergency personal leave. The second to Providence, Rhode Island. "Horizon Maritime Services," answered a gruff voice with the distinctive New England accent that had always amused my Manhattan-polished family. "This is Alexandra Westbrook. I'd like to speak with the current operations manager." A brief silence followed. "Ms. Westbrook? Harold's granddaughter? Yes. Well, I'll be damned. We've been wondering when you'd call. This is Martin Callahan. I worked with your grandfather for 30 years. He said you'd contact us eventually." "He did?" "Sure did. Said, 'Martin, someday that girl's going to need what we've built here, and when she calls, you give her everything she needs.'" That was about a week before he passed. My grandfather's foresight continued to astonish me. Not only had he created this safety net, but he had prepared those managing it for my eventual appearance. "Mr. Callahan, I'd like to visit your operation as soon as possible. Tomorrow, if that can be arranged." "Been ready for you for 3 years, Ms. Westbrook. We'll have everything prepared for your inspection." After ending the call, I opened my laptop and began researching. First, Providence Real Estate Development, confirming the accelerating value of those harbor locations my grandfather had secured. Next, the current shipping industry landscape, identifying gaps and opportunities in regional maritime services. Finally, quantum sphere technologies, examining the bankruptcy filing to understand what had happened to my $7 million. The bankruptcy documents told a predictable story. My brother's company had burned through capital at an astonishing rate with minimal tangible results. Executive compensation packages at levels inappropriate for a pre-revenue startup. Lavish office space in the most expensive district. Research equipment that included luxury vehicles classified as transportation testing platforms. And most tellingly, consulting fees paid to Westbrook Family Holdings, my parents' personal management company, totaling nearly $3 million over 18 months. They hadn't just used my trust fund to finance Elliot's failing business. They had directly enriched themselves in the process. The revelation should have magnified my sense of betrayal. Instead, it provided a strange clarity. This wasn't just about poor investment decisions or misplaced family loyalty. This was systematic, financial exploitation executed with deliberate intent. As painful as this realization was, it also simplified my path forward. I would not be seeking explanations or reconciliation. I would not be engaging with attempts to justify or rationalize. I would be building something completely separate from the family that had betrayed my trust. My coffee grew cold as I worked, creating preliminary business plans, researching potential clients, and identifying immediate priorities for Horizon Maritime. By early evening, I had developed a clear framework for my first steps my grandfather had anticipated but thoughtfully left undefined, knowing that true ownership comes from creating rather than merely inheriting. Before leaving the cafe, I made one final call to Jason Winters, a law school friend who had specialized in corporate restructuring and asset protection. "Alexandra Westbrook," he answered with genuine warmth. "To what do I owe this rare pleasure? Finally ready to leave investment analysis for the more lucrative world of maritime law?" "Something like that," I replied, smiling despite everything. "Jason, how quickly could you review some corporate transfer documents and file them appropriately? And with complete discretion?" His tone shifted to professional interest. "Depends on complexity. What are we talking about?" "A small shipping company with significant strategic holdings, currently held in trust, transferring to personal ownership." "Family business matters?" "Family business unmatterings, more accurately." The wordplay was poor, but it conveyed the essential truth. Intriguing. Send me what you have. I can give you a preliminary assessment by morning. One more thing, I added. I may need counsel regarding recovery of misappropriated trust assets, currently tied up in bankruptcy proceedings. A brief silence. Alexandra, that sounds considerably more complicated than a standard corporate transfer. Are you all right? The question, simple, direct, concerned, momentarily pierced the analytical focus I'd maintained since leaving the bank. Was I all right? My family had effectively stolen my inheritance. My financial security had evaporated overnight. My professional future at Gardner & Reed would likely be compromised once my family's influence was factored in. Yet beneath these devastating realities lay something unexpected. Freedom. Freedom from expectations I had never fully embraced. Freedom from a predetermined path within the Westbrook Empire. Freedom to build something that reflected my values rather than my family's priorities. I'm better than all right, I answered with surprising conviction. I'm exactly where I need to be. The Amtrak train to Providence departed New York's Penn Station at 6:15 a.m., carrying me away from Manhattan's gleaming towers toward a coastal city I had visited only once as a child. I had chosen the train deliberately over flying, wanting the gradual transition both geographically and mentally. Each mile increased the distance between the life I had known and the one I was about to create. I traveled light, one suitcase, containing practical clothes rather than the designer wardrobe that populated my apartment closet. My most valuable possessions now resided in my laptop bag, my grandfather's letter, the Horizon Maritime documents, and the detailed plans I had developed through the night. Sleep had been elusive, not from anxiety, but from a surge of creative energy I hadn't experienced since my early college days. Ideas for revitalizing the shipping operation, leveraging the strategic harbor rights, and building a sustainable business model had flowed with surprising clarity. By dawn, I had outlined a comprehensive 3-year growth strategy that would transform Horizon from a modest regional operator into a specialized maritime services company focused on high-value, low-volume shipping needs overlooked by industry giants. My phone had continued its persistent alerts throughout the night, calls and messages from family members escalating in urgency and emotional manipulation. I had silenced most notifications but couldn't resist reviewing my brother's latest text before boarding the train. Alex, whatever Patterson told you is only part of the story. The bankruptcy is a strategic restructuring. When we secure the next round of funding, all investors will be compensated double their original stake. Mom and Dad were trying to protect your future. Call me. The audacity was almost admirable. Even facing complete business collapse, Elliot maintained his unwavering belief that prosperity lay just around the next corner, requiring only more capital and more faith in his vision. This delusion had been enabled and encouraged by our parents throughout his life, from his first failed entrepreneurial venture, an exclusive social network for prep school students that burned through $300,000, to his most recent catastrophe. I deleted the message without responding and turned my attention to the changing landscape outside my window. Urban density gradually gave way to suburban communities, then to stretches of coastal scenery as the train approached Rhode Island. The journey provided 3 hours of uninterrupted work time, which I used to finalize my presentation for the Horizon Maritime team. Providence greeted me with bright spring sunshine and the distinctive scent of a working harbor, salt water, diesel fuel, and industrial activity creating an olfactory portrait of maritime commerce. I took a taxi directly from the station to the Horizon Maritime offices, located in a converted warehouse at the edge of the commercial dock area. The building's weathered brick exterior belied the surprisingly well-maintained interior. A modest reception area displayed framed photographs of vessels and harbors, alongside a large coastal map with colored pins marking operational territories. A woman approximately 60 years old looked up from the reception desk as I entered. her expression shifting from professional greeting to genuine recognition. "Ms. Westbrook," she said, rising, "you have your grandfather's eyes. I'm Margaret Callahan, office manager. My husband Martin is expecting you." "Thank you for accommodating me on such short notice," I replied, taking in the operation with trained assessment. The office was unpretentious but efficiently organized, with clear systems and purpose, exactly what one would expect from a business my grandfather had selected for its substance rather than its appearance. "Martin's just finishing a call with our Boston client. Can I get you coffee while you wait? Still black with 1 sugar, like your grandfather?" The personal detail caught me off guard. "You knew my grandfather well?" Margaret smiled. 25 years. He visited quarterly, like clockwork. Always took the train, always arrived precisely at 10, always remembered every employee's name and family concerns." She gestured toward a small conference room. "That's where he'd review the books, line by line, every voyage, every expense. Said the details told the real story." Before I could respond, a door opened, and a barrel-chested man with salt and pepper hair emerged. Martin Callahan matched his voice perfectly. Substantial, no nonsense, immediately commanding respect without demanding it. "Alexandra Westbrook," he said, extending a weathered hand. "Welcome to Horizon Maritime. Your grandfather told me you'd know exactly what to do with this place when the time came." The confidence in his statement was simultaneously flattering and intimidating. Harold Westbrook had apparently seen potential in me that I was only beginning to recognize in myself. "I appreciate your faith, Mr. Callahan, but I'd like to understand the operation thoroughly before making any determinations," I replied, maintaining the professional demeanor that had served me well in the investment world. He nodded approvingly. "Exactly what your grandfather said you'd say. Let's start with the operational overview, then tour the docks and vessels. After that, the books are open to your inspection." The next 6 hours provided a comprehensive education in the practical realities of regional shipping operations. Martin proved to be an exceptional guide, deeply knowledgeable, transparently honest about both strengths and challenges, and refreshingly direct in his assessments. Horizon Maritime Services operated 3 vessels, 2 mid-sized cargo ships, handling specialized regional deliveries, and 1 smaller, faster craft used for time-sensitive transport. The company employed 27 people, 16 crew members, 7 dock workers, and 4 administrative staff, including the Callahans. What distinguished Horizon from competitors wasn't fleet size or cargo volume, but strategic positioning. The exclusive docking rights my grandfather had secured provided direct access to urban development zones where larger shipping operations couldn't efficiently operate. This allowed Horizon to service specialized clients needing smaller batch deliveries directly to urban locations, pharmaceutical companies, specialty food distributors, custom manufacturers, and technical equipment suppliers. "Your grandfather called it maritime last-mile delivery before that term became fashionable in e-commerce," Martin explained as we walked the Providence dock where one of the vessels was being loaded. "The big companies want container volume. We handle the specialty cargo that needs careful handling and direct urban access." By late afternoon, I had toured all 3 vessels, met most of the crew, and reviewed 5 years of financial statements. The operation was precisely as my grandfather had described, modestly profitable, strategically positioned, and poised for growth with the right investment and vision. In the small conference room where Harold Westbrook had conducted his quarterly reviews, I now sat with Martin and Margaret Callahan and Jason Winters, who had arrived from New York with the completed transfer documents. The moment had arrived to formalize my ownership and share my plans for Horizon's future. "Before we proceed," I said, "I want to be completely transparent about my situation. My personal trust fund has been depleted without my knowledge. The Westbrook family resources that might typically support this transition are unavailable to me. I'm approaching this venture with limited liquid capital, but significant commitment. Martin exchanged glances with his wife, a silent communication, built over decades of partnership. Ms. Westbrook, Alexandra, your grandfather anticipated this possibility. What do you mean? Margaret opened a folder and removed a sealed envelope similar to the one I had discovered in the safe deposit box. Harold left this with instructions to provide it to you when you assumed control of Horizon. I accepted the envelope with a sense of déjà vu, carefully breaking the seal to reveal another letter in my grandfather's distinctive handwriting. Alexandra, if the Callahans are presenting this letter, you have demonstrated the judgment and determination I always recognized. In you, Horizon Maritime represents more than simply a business opportunity. It embodies my philosophy that true security comes from creating value rather than merely managing assets. What Martin may not have shown you yet is the company's reserve account, established and maintained separately from operational finances. This account contains $1 or $2 million, capital I've designated specifically for expansion when the right leadership emerged. You are that leadership, Alexandra. Not because you bear the Westbrook name, but because you possess the Westbrook vision that has become increasingly rare in our family. This capital comes with only one condition. It must be used to build rather than sustain. Horizon doesn't need financial rescue. It needs ambitious direction aligned with its founding principles of service, quality, and strategic growth. The decisions you make from this point forward should reflect not what I would have done, but what you determine is right for the company's future. Trust your judgment, as I have always trusted it. With confidence in your vision, Harold Westbrook. I looked up from the letter to find 3 sets of eyes watching me with varying degrees of curiosity and expectation. $1, $2 million in reserve? I asked Martin, seeking confirmation of this unexpected development. He nodded. Separate account. At Rhode Island Commercial Bank, untouched since your grandfather established it. He was adamant that it remain intact until you arrived to determine its application. The revelation altered my immediate strategic options considerably. While modest compared to the trust fund I had lost, this capital provided critical runway for implementing growth initiatives without extreme financial constraints. I'd like to present my preliminary vision for Horizon Maritime, I said, opening my laptop. I welcome your candid feedback, particularly regarding operational feasibility. Over the next hour, I outlined the 3-year plan I had developed, emphasizing 1. Fleet modernization focusing on fuel efficiency and specialized cargo capacity. 2. Technology integration for real-time tracking and logistics optimization. Targeted marketing to industries requiring secure, specialized shipping to urban centers. 4. Expansion of services to all 6 harbor locations where we held exclusive rights. 5. Development of a proprietary scheduling system to maximize utilization of limited docking windows. As I spoke, I watched Martin's expression transform from polite attention to genuine engagement. By the time I finished, he was leaning forward, making notes with surprising enthusiasm for a man who had managed the same operation for decades. Your grandfather mentioned you had his business instinct, but he undersold it, Martin said when I concluded. This plan addresses precisely the opportunities we've identified, but lacked capital to pursue. The technology integration is particularly important, Margaret added. We've been managing with increasingly outdated systems while competitors implement tracking platforms our clients are beginning to expect. The legal transfer documents are complete, Jason interjected, placing a folder on the table. Once executed, Alexandra will have full control of Horizon Maritime Services, including all assets, contracts, and banking authorities. I took a moment to assess the 3 people in the room, professionals who had demonstrated loyalty to my grandfather's vision and now waited for my decision. The weight of responsibility felt substantial but not overwhelming. For perhaps the first time in my professional life, I was making choices based entirely on my own judgment, rather than family expectations or institutional parameters. "Let's proceed with the transfer," I said, reaching for the documents. "And then begin implementation of Phase 1 immediately." As I signed each page, I experienced a profound sense of alignment, as though pieces of a puzzle I hadn't recognized were snapping into place. The betrayal that had sent me fleeing New York now seemed less like an ending and more like a necessary catalyst, pushing me toward a future my grandfather had envisioned long before I could see it myself. By sunset, I had become the official owner of Horizon Maritime Services. The Callahans had arranged temporary accommodations in a small apartment above the office, practical quarters previously used by captains between voyages. Jason had returned to New York with copies of the executed documents and instructions to protect my new assets from potential family interference. Alone in the simple apartment, I stood at the window overlooking the harbor where one of my vessels, was docked for the night. Lights illuminated the deck where crew members completed evening procedures. Below in the office, Martin worked late preparing for tomorrow's operational transition. My phone displayed new messages from my parents, now explicitly mentioning awareness of my visit to the safe deposit box and demanding return of family business documents they claimed I had mistakenly removed. Their escalating desperation suggested they had discovered the Horizon connection and recognized its potential value. Too late. Whatever leverage they believed they held had evaporated with the official transfer of ownership. Horizon Maritime Services now belonged solely to Alexandra Westbrook, independent of family holdings or influence. I silenced the phone and returned my attention to the harbor view. Tomorrow would begin the real work of transformation, implementing strategic changes, meeting key clients, establishing new operational protocols. The challenges ahead were substantial, but for the first time since learning of my trust fund's depletion, I felt genuinely optimistic. My grandfather had provided not just an opportunity, but a perfect test of my capabilities, a chance to build something meaningful from a solid foundation rather than starting from nothing. The trust fund I had lost represented passive wealth. Horizon represented active potential. As darkness settled over Providence Harbor, I realized the bank manager's call had indeed changed everything, not by revealing what I had lost, but by setting in motion the discovery of what I could create. My first 90 days as owner of Horizon Maritime Services passed in a blur of strategic implementation and operational transformation. Each morning began before dawn in the Harbor View apartment I had decided to maintain as my permanent residence. By 6 a.m., I was in the office reviewing overnight shipping reports and preparing for the day ahead. The simplicity of this routine, so different from my Manhattan lifestyle, provided unexpected clarity and focus. The $2 million reserve fund required disciplined allocation to maximize impact. Rather than immediately expanding the fleet, I prioritized 3 strategic investments: technology infrastructure upgrades, specialized cargo handling equipment, and a targeted marketing campaign to reach high-value potential clients in the pharmaceutical and precision manufacturing sectors. Martin Callahan proved invaluable during this transition, combining decades of practical maritime experience with surprising openness to new approaches. "Your grandfather always said the shipping industry survived by adapting," he remarked during a particularly challenging implementation of our new logistics tracking system. "Those who cling to outdated methods eventually sink." By the end of the first month, we had secured 2 significant new clients: Meridian Pharmaceuticals, which needed temperature-controlled transport of research materials between their Boston and New York facilities, and Precision Dynamics, a specialized electronics manufacturer requiring vibration-minimized shipping for sensitive components. These accounts alone increased our monthly revenue by 22%, validating the strategic repositioning. The early success allowed me to implement the second phase of my plan ahead of schedule, establishing operational presence at the additional harbor locations where we held exclusive docking rights. We began with Newport, Rhode Island, converting a small administrative office into a fully functioning logistics hub that could coordinate specialized deliveries without requiring vessels to return to Providence between shipments. Throughout this period, I maintained my distance from New York and the Westbrook family drama, though information reached me through various channels. Jason Winters provided regular updates on my brother's bankruptcy proceedings, which had become increasingly contentious as creditors questioned the substantial consulting fees paid to my parents' management company. The judge has ordered a forensic accounting of all quantum sphere transactions, Jason reported during our weekly call. Several investors have joined forces to challenge the fee structure and executive compensation packages. Your parents are being deposed next week. I received this information with detached interest rather than satisfaction. My focus had shifted so completely to building Horizon that the Westbrook family finances, once central to my identity and future, now seemed like a distant concern belonging to someone else's life. This detachment was tested in mid-July when my father's number appeared on my phone for the first time in weeks. Against my better judgment, I answered, "Alexandra." His voice carried the authoritative tone he had perfected in boardrooms across 3 decades. "This has gone on long enough. We need to discuss the Horizon situation like reasonable adults." "There is no situation to discuss," I replied calmly. "Horizon Maritime is my company, legally transferred and properly registered. My decision to develop it independently isn't subject to family negotiation." "You're being short-sighted," he continued, frustration edging into his practiced control. "Those harbor rights would significantly enhance Westbrook Shipping's eastern seaboard operations. We're prepared to make a generous offer, twice the company's current valuation." The proposal revealed exactly what I had suspected. My family had finally recognized the strategic value my grandfather had quietly secured years earlier. The development projects surrounding our exclusive docking locations had advanced significantly, making these access points increasingly valuable to larger shipping operations, including Westbrook Shipping, which had previously dismissed regional maritime services as insignificant to their global focus. "Horizon isn't for sale," I stated firmly, "not to Westbrook Shipping or any other entity." "This isn't rational, Alexandra," he argued, voice hardening. "You're allowing personal feelings about the trust fund to cloud your business judgment. Whatever you think happened—" "I know exactly what happened," I interrupted. $7 million transferred from my trust to fund Elliot's failed venture and pay exorbitant fees to your management company. Nothing about that requires further clarification." The silence that followed suggested my directness had caught him unprepared. The Westbrook family operated through layers of implication and strategic ambiguity, addressing uncomfortable truths only through euphemism and misdirection. My blunt assessment violated these unwritten protocols. "We made investment decisions we believed would benefit the entire family," he finally responded. "Quantum sphere represented potentially transformative technology. And the $3 million in consulting fees to Westbrook Family Holdings? Was that also for the family benefit?" Another telling silence. The company required expert guidance during the development phase. "This conversation is pointless," I concluded. "I'm building something meaningful with Horizon Maritime. I suggest you focus on addressing the creditor concerns in Elliot's bankruptcy rather than attempting to acquire my company." After ending the call, I took a moment to process the unexpected emotional residue. The conversation had confirmed what I had already known intellectually. My parents viewed family resources as fungible assets to be directed toward their preferred priorities, regardless of legal designations or fiduciary responsibilities. Yet, hearing my father attempt to justify these actions still carried a sting of betrayal I hadn't fully resolved. I channeled this renewed clarity into accelerating Horizon's transformation. The following morning, I called an all-staff meeting to announce the next stage of our growth strategy, establishing dedicated service lines for specific industries with specialized shipping requirements. Our competitive advantage isn't size, it's specialization, I explained to the assembled team. While larger shipping companies focus on volume and standardization, we'll provide customized solutions for clients whose products require exceptional handling, security, and precise delivery windows. The initiative resonated particularly with our vessel captains, who had grown frustrated with the industry's increasing commoditization. This returns shipping to its roots as a skilled service rather than just moving containers, noted Captain Reynolds, who had been with Horizon for 15 years. It gives meaning back to maritime expertise. By the end of our third month, the results were undeniable. Revenue had increased 47% from pre-acquisition levels. Our operating margin had improved from 12% to 19% through technology-enabled efficiency and higher-value contracts. We had expanded to 3 of the 6 exclusive harbor locations and increased our workforce by 11 specialized positions. Most significantly, we had established Horizon Maritime as the premier provider for sensitive materials transport along the northeastern seaboard, with clients ranging from research institutions to aerospace component manufacturers to specialized pharmaceutical companies. The milestone deserved recognition. I organized a company celebration at the Providence Harbor facility, converting our loading dock into an impromptu reception area with catering from local restaurants and simple decorations, celebrating maritime heritage. Every employee attended, from administrative staff to vessel crews cycling through as their shipping schedules allowed. During the event, Martin Callahan approached me with an unexpected gift: a framed photograph of my grandfather standing on the dock beside the original Horizon vessel. Taken the day he purchased the company, Martin explained. He said someday it would belong to the one person in his family who understood that wealth wasn't measured by assets, but by opportunities created. The image captured Harold Westbrook not in his customary boardroom attire, but dressed practically for dockside business, looking toward the horizon with characteristic vision. I recognized in that moment how completely I had misjudged my inheritance. My grandfather hadn't left me a trust fund. He had left me a template for independence, a path to building something authentically mine, rather than simply managing what had been given. "We've received an inquiry you should know about," Martin continued, lowering his voice slightly. "Atlantic. Consolidated Shipping is interested in using our Newport dock access for their pharmaceutical transport division. They're willing to pay premium rates for guaranteed windows." Atlantic Consolidated represented one of Westbrook Shipping's most significant competitors, a fact unlikely to be coincidental given my recent conversation with my father. "They're testing whether our exclusive rights are truly exclusive," I observed, "and whether we might be willing to partner with Westbrook competitors." Martin nodded. That was my assessment as well. The strategic implications required careful consideration. Granting access to Atlantic Consolidated would generate substantial revenue, but potentially create longer-term complications. More importantly, it would position Horizon as a pawn in industry competition, rather than an independent operator pursuing its own development path. Schedule a meeting with their representative, I decided, but not to discuss dock leasing. I want to propose a different arrangement. A specialized handling partnership that maintains our operational control while meeting their distribution needs. The response reflected my evolving business philosophy. Horizon would grow through service innovation and strategic partnerships, not by simply selling access to our most valuable assets. We would leverage our unique positioning without sacrificing long-term independence for short-term gain. As the celebration continued around us, I reflected on the remarkable trajectory of the past 3 months. The devastation of discovering my depleted trust fund had been transformed into the exhilaration of building something meaningful. The betrayal by family had led to the discovery of a more authentic path aligned with my grandfather's true legacy, not of wealth accumulation, but of value creation. My phone buzzed with a notification from Jason. "Judge has frozen Westbrook Family Holdings assets pending investigation of quantum sphere transfers." Your parents have requested emergency hearing. Details to follow. I pocketed the phone without responding. The Westbrook family financial drama continued to unfold, but it no longer dominated my attention or defined my future. Whatever resulted from the bankruptcy proceedings and subsequent investigations might eventually provide some recovery of my trust funds, but that possibility had become almost incidental to my current path. That evening, after the celebration concluded and employees departed, I returned to the quiet of my harbor apartment. The Providence waterfront lights reflected on the dark water, creating shimmering pathways between docked vessels. Tomorrow would bring new challenges: the Atlantic Consolidated negotiation, implementation of our specialized tracking software, personnel decisions for our expanding operation. But tonight, looking out at the maritime landscape that had become my unexpected home, I recognized the profound truth in my grandfather's vision. True security comes not from what we are given, but from what we create. The bank manager's devastating revelation had ultimately delivered me to precisely where I needed to be, building a future on my own terms, one strategic decision at a time. The trust fund I had lost represented passive inheritance. What I was building with Horizon represented active creation. And in that transformation lay the most valuable legacy my grandfather could have possibly provided. 6 months after taking control of Horizon Maritime Services, I stood on the observation deck of our newest acquisition, the MV Pathfinder, a state-of-the-art vessel specifically designed for specialized cargo transport. Below, dock workers secured equipment for the ship's inaugural voyage, while Martin supervised the loading protocols we had meticulously developed for high-value pharmaceuticals. The Pathfinder represented Horizon's single largest investment, financed through a combination of our growing operational profits and a targeted capital partnership with Meridian Pharmaceuticals, who had committed to a 3-year exclusive transport contract in exchange for hull modifications that perfectly accommodated their specialized containers. This collaborative approach to fleet expansion, having clients literally invest in vessel specifications, had transformed traditional equipment financing into strategic alliance building. "Final inspections complete, Ms. Westbrook," reported Captain Reeves, approaching with clipboard in hand. "Environmental systems are operating at optimal levels. Temperature-controlled sections are maintaining precise parameters within 3 degrees. Thank you, Captain. And the crew is comfortable with the new monitoring protocols?" "More than comfortable. They're enthusiastic. The automated systems reduce their administrative burden while improving cargo security. Several crew members have requested additional training on the advanced features." This positive reception validated our approach to technological integration. Rather than imposing systems that replaced human expertise, we had carefully selected technologies that enhanced maritime professionals' capabilities while eliminating tedious aspects of cargo monitoring. The result was improved performance and increased job satisfaction, a combination that had reduced crew turnover to near zero during a period of significant operational change. As Captain Reeves returned to his pre-departure duties, I took a moment to appreciate the tangible progress surrounding me. In 6 months, Horizon Maritime had evolved from a modest regional shipper to an emerging specialized transport leader with growing industry recognition. Our client roster had expanded to 27 premium accounts across pharmaceutical, technology, medical equipment, and specialized manufacturing sectors. Our workforce had increased to 53 employees, all receiving compensation packages exceeding industry standards. Most significantly, we had activated 5 of our 6 exclusive harbor locations, establishing Horizon as an essential logistics partner in rapidly developing urban centers where conventional shipping operations couldn't efficiently operate. The strategic value my grandfather had identified years earlier was now generating exponential returns as these formerly industrial waterfronts transformed into premium commercial and residential districts. My phone vibrated with an incoming message from Daniel Carson, the former classmate I had recruited from McKinsey to serve as Horizon's Director of Strategic Development. Morgan Stanley team confirmed for tomorrow's meeting. Financial projections updated per your recommendations. Revenue models compelling for minority investment structure we discussed. This represented our next significant step, securing strategic investment to accelerate growth while maintaining operational control. After carefully evaluating options, I had determined that bringing in minority financial partners would provide capital for faster expansion, while preserving the independence that differentiated Horizon from conventional corporate shipping operations. The investment presentation had required translating our specialized maritime services into financial language institutional investors could evaluate. Working with Daniel, we had developed comprehensive projections demonstrating how our exclusive harbor rights combined with specialized shipping capabilities created defensible market positioning with exceptional growth potential. As I responded to Daniel's message, a notification appeared from Jason Winters, a news alert regarding Westbrook Shipping. The headline immediately captured my attention. Westbrook family shipping empire faces crisis as court freezes additional assets in expanding investigation. Opening the attached article revealed details of the escalating fallout from my brother's bankruptcy. What had begun as straightforward Chapter 11 proceedings had expanded into a comprehensive investigation of financial transfers throughout the Westbrook family business empire. Forensic accountants had discovered systematic movement of funds between entities in ways that raised significant regulatory concerns. Most damaging was the revelation that my trust fund hadn't been the only asset redirected to support Elliott's failing venture. Pension funds for Westbrook shipping employees had been temporarily allocated to Quantum Sphere Technologies through complex financial mechanisms designed to obscure the source of capital. The court had responded by freezing Westbrook family holdings assets and appointing an independent manager to oversee Westbrook shipping operations while the investigation continued. The article included a photograph of my parents leaving the courthouse, their expressions revealing the unprecedented professional crisis they now faced. I closed the article with complex emotions. The systematic nature of their financial maneuvers confirmed that my trust fund's depletion hadn't been an isolated misjudgment, but part of a broader pattern of ethical compromises. Yet, seeing the public dismantling of the Westbrook reputation, built over generations before my parents' stewardship, carried a certain sadness despite my personal grievances. Ms. Westbrook? Martin's voice interrupted my thoughts. The Meridian? Representatives have arrived for the Pathfinder dedication. They've brought their executive team. I pocketed my phone, setting aside family complications to focus on Horizon's milestone moment. The success we were celebrating today had nothing to do with the Westbrook name or connections. It represented achievement built entirely on our own, strategic vision and operational excellence. The dedication ceremony proceeded with appropriate maritime tradition. Champagne bottle against hull, remarks acknowledging partnership between shipper and client, commitment to excellence in specialized transport. Throughout the event, I noted how comfortably I had settled into leadership of this maritime operation that would have seemed an inconceivable career path just 8 months earlier. During the reception that followed, Dr. Elise Sharma, Meridian's chief research officer, sought me out for a private conversation away from the general celebration. The temperature-controlled modifications exceed our specifications, she noted, referencing the custom installations that maintained precise environmental conditions for Meridian's sensitive research materials. Our previous shipping partners considered our requirements challenging, if not impossible. Horizon approaches specifications as opportunities for innovation rather than obstacles, I replied. Your requirements drove improvements in our capabilities that benefit all our specialized transport clients. She nodded appreciatively. That collaborative approach is precisely why we've entrusted our most valuable research materials to your company. The integrity of temperature-sensitive compounds can mean the difference between breakthrough treatments and failed clinical trials. I understand the stakes extend far beyond simple logistics. Indeed. She hesitated before continuing, which is why I wanted to discuss potential expansion of our partnership. Meridian is establishing new research facilities in Charleston and Baltimore. We'll need the same specialized transport capabilities at those locations, but our investigation suggests the available maritime options are inadequate. The geographical expansion represented significant opportunity, but would require operational presence well beyond our current northeastern footprint. Before I could formulate a measured response, Dr. Sharma continued, "We've prepared a proposal for Horizon to establish dedicated transport services for these locations, including potential joint investment in specialized vessels and equipment. Our board has authorized up to $35 million in partnership capital if you can demonstrate feasibility." The figure momentarily took my breath away. $35 million represented a scale of expansion I had projected for our 5-year horizon, not immediate opportunity. Managing such growth would require substantial operational development beyond our current capabilities. That's a compelling opportunity, I acknowledged, maintaining professional composure despite my internal excitement. We would need to thoroughly evaluate logistical requirements and infrastructure needs before providing commitment. Of course, we've prepared comprehensive specifications for your review. She handed me a thumb drive. Our timeline would require operational capability within 12 months for Charleston, 18 for Baltimore. After the Meridian team departed, I gathered Martin, Daniel, and our operations director Margaret Callahan in the small conference room at Horizon headquarters. I shared the unexpected expansion opportunity and its potential implications for our growth trajectory. $35 million in partnership capital would transform our development timeline, Daniel noted, quickly. Calculating financial implications. We could accelerate fleet modernization while establishing operating presence in 2 major ports simultaneously. The operational challenges are substantial, Margaret cautioned. We've mastered specialized shipping in our current territories, through years of relationship building and local knowledge. Charleston and Baltimore represent entirely new maritime environments with different regulatory frameworks and operational requirements. Martin considered both perspectives before offering his assessment. It's ambitious but achievable with the right approach. We wouldn't duplicate our current model. We'd need to adapt to those specific port environments while maintaining our core commitment to specialized transport excellence. The discussion continued for hours, evaluating potential implementation, strategies, resource requirements, timeline feasibility, and risk mitigation approaches. By evening, we had outlined a preliminary response framework for Meridian that balanced commitment to partnership with responsible operational development. As the meeting concluded, I remained alone in the conference room, reviewing the day's remarkable developments. In the same hours that Westbrook Shipping faced public crisis and potential restructuring, Horizon Maritime was considering expansion that would establish us as a specialized transport leader along the entire eastern seaboard. The contrast couldn't have been starker. My parents had chosen financial manipulation to maintain appearances and support my brother's failing venture. I had chosen transparent value creation focused on genuine client needs and operational excellence. The divergent paths had produced equally divergent outcomes. My phone displayed multiple missed calls from unknown numbers, likely journalists, seeking comment on the Westbrook family situation, now that connections between Horizon Maritime and the Westbrook Empire had become public knowledge. I had no intention of providing that commentary. The investigative proceedings would follow, their course without my participation. Instead, I opened my grandfather's letter, the original from the safe deposit box, now framed in my office alongside the photograph Martin had given me. The passage that had initially seemed most relevant now carried new significance. Alexandra, I have observed you since childhood and recognized in you the qualities that cannot be inherited or purchased: discernment, patience, and the courage to stand alone when necessary. Whatever has brought you to this box, remember that true wealth lies not in accounts that can be depleted, but in the capacity to build what others cannot imagine. 8 months ago, I had interpreted these words as consolation for losing my trust fund. Now I recognize them as prophecy about the path that loss would ultimately reveal, a path of creation rather than inheritance, of earned achievement rather than entitled expectation. The bank manager's devastating revelation had initiated a journey I would never have chosen, but now wouldn't trade for any amount of passive wealth. In the process of building Horizon Maritime, I had discovered capabilities within myself that might have remained dormant in the comfortable confines of my previous life. As evening settled over Providence Harbor, the lights of the Pathfinder illuminated the water surrounding our newest vessel. Tomorrow, it would depart on its maiden voyage, carrying specialized cargo worth millions to researchers developing treatments for previously incurable conditions. The value chain extending from our specialized maritime services reached far beyond profit margins or balance sheets. It facilitated advancements that could alleviate human suffering. That purpose, creating sustainable value that extended beyond financial metrics, represented the true inheritance my grandfather had preserved for me. Not in the trust fund that had been depleted, but in the opportunity to build something meaningful from a foundation of principle rather than privilege. The expansion opportunity before us now would test our capabilities and commitment to that vision. Scaling specialized excellence would require more than capital investment. It would demand maintaining our core values while adapting to new environments. The challenge was substantial, but after 8 months of transformation, I had complete confidence in our ability to navigate whatever lay beyond the horizon. 1 year after discovering my emptied trust fund, I stood at the podium in Charleston's Harbor Point Convention Center, addressing the Specialized Maritime Transport Association's annual conference. The audience comprised industry leaders, regulatory, officials, and potential clients, all focused on emerging trends in specialized shipping. The future of maritime transport isn't about vessel size or cargo volume, I explained, highlighting slides showcasing Horizon's innovative approach. It's about precision delivery systems for high-value, sensitive materials that require exceptional handling. In today's complex supply chains, specialized maritime transport represents the critical link between innovation and implementation. The presentation detailed Horizon Maritime's rapid evolution from regional operator to industry pioneer in pharmaceutical, medical, and technology transport. Our case studies demonstrated how customized shipping solutions had reduced product damage by 87% for sensitive electronics manufacturers and maintained temperature stability within 2 degrees for biopharmaceutical compounds throughout multi-port journeys. Following the presentation, I navigated a series of strategic conversations with potential partners and clients. The industry recognition was gratifying but secondary to the practical relationships these conferences facilitated. By midday, we had scheduled 4 site assessments with manufacturing companies interested in establishing dedicated shipping protocols for their specialized products. During a brief lunch break, Daniel found me reviewing notes from the morning sessions. The Meridian expansion proposal received final approval, he reported, sliding a document across the table. Board signatures confirmed this morning. $35 million in partnership capital with the exact structure we proposed. Minority investment with dedicated equipment rights, but no operational control provisions. This represented the culmination of 3 months of meticulous negotiation and planning. The agreement would fund Horizon's establishment of comprehensive specialized shipping capabilities in both Charleston and Baltimore, while preserving our operational independence, the ideal balance between accelerated growth and maintained autonomy. Excellent, I replied, reviewing the finalized terms. Have Morgan Stanley's representatives confirmed the compatibility with our broader capital structure? Complete alignment with the institutional investment framework. This actually strengthens our position for the Series B funding round. Having Meridian as a strategic partner validates our specialized service model for financial investors. The financing strategy we had developed combined industry partnerships like Meridian's, with institutional investment from financial firms that recognized the long-term value of our exclusive harbor rights and specialized capabilities. This hybrid approach provided necessary capital while preventing any single entity from acquiring controlling interest, preserving the independence that enabled our responsive, client-focused operational approach. As we concluded our lunch, my phone displayed an incoming call from Jason Winters. I excused myself to take it privately. "Alexandra, I thought you should hear this directly from me," Jason began, his tone uncharacteristically solemn. "The federal investigation into Westbrook Family Holdings has expanded significantly. The prosecutor has filed initial charges against your father for financial improprieties related to pension fund transfers." Though I had been tracking developments in the Westbrook legal proceedings, this escalation to criminal charges represented a substantial intensification. What specifically are they alleging? Misappropriation of fiduciary assets, fraudulent financial statements, and multiple securities violations. The evidence from the bankruptcy investigation apparently revealed systematic financial manipulation extending well beyond quantum sphere technologies. I absorbed this information with a complex mixture of emotions. While my personal grievance focused on my trust fund's depletion, these charges suggested harm to numerous employees whose retirement security had been compromised. The betrayal extended far beyond family boundaries to people who had dedicated careers to building Westbrook Shipping. "Is there any indication of my mother's legal exposure?" I asked, maintaining analytical focus despite the personal implications. "The current charges name only your father as the primary financial decision-maker, but investigators are examining her role as co-director of Westbrook Family Holdings. Elliot appears to be cooperating with prosecutors, likely negotiating reduced consequences in exchange for testimony." The revelation of my brother's cooperation didn't surprise me. Elliot had always prioritized self-preservation when facing consequences. His pattern throughout life had been consistent: create problems through overambitious ventures, then leverage charm and family connections to mitigate personal repercussions. What are the potential ramifications for Westbrook Shipping itself? This question reflected my concern for the employees and operational divisions that remained productive, despite the holding company's mismanagement. The court-appointed manager is pursuing structural separation from the holding company to shield operational assets from legal proceedings. Several potential buyers have expressed interest in acquiring the shipping divisions if they can be legally disentangled from the parent company's liabilities. After concluding the call, I took a moment to process this development before returning to conference activities. The collapse of my family's financial empire was accelerating, with consequences extending beyond reputation damage to potential criminal penalties. The trust fund betrayal that had initiated my personal journey now revealed itself as merely one symptom of more systemic ethical failures. Yet remarkably, these revelations generated more clarity than distress. The definitive separation between my current path and my family's business approach reinforced the value of the independent course I had chosen. Whatever the outcome of the Westbrook legal proceedings, Horizon Maritime would continue developing according to fundamentally different principles: transparency, sustainable value creation, and ethical business practice. The afternoon conference, sessions focused on regulatory developments affecting specialized maritime transport, a topic directly relevant to our expansion plans. During the panel discussion, I found myself seated beside Evelyn Hargrove, Commissioner of Port Operations for the Southeastern Regulatory District that included Charleston. Horizon Maritime has made quite an impression in specialized transport. "Circles," she commented as we reviewed presentation materials. "Your pharmaceutical handling protocols have been referenced as potential industry standards in our recent regulatory discussions. We've found that exceeding compliance requirements actually creates operational advantages," I replied. By designing systems that prioritize cargo integrity above minimum standards, we've reduced incidents and improved client confidence simultaneously. She nodded approvingly. That philosophy aligns with our regulatory direction. We're shifting. Focus from punishment-oriented enforcement to performance-based standards that reward exceptional operators. That approach would benefit specialized transport development significantly. The current regulatory framework was designed primarily for conventional container shipping, with specialized cargo requirements addressed through exceptions rather than dedicated frameworks. This observation sparked a substantive discussion about potential regulatory evolution for specialized maritime transport. By the session's conclusion, Commissioner Hargrove had invited Horizon to participate in an advisory committee developing next-generation standards for pharmaceutical and medical supply chain security. We need industry leaders who understand both operational realities and innovation potential, she explained. Your company's rapid advancement of specialized protocols provides valuable perspective for regulatory modernization. The invitation represented significant opportunity beyond mere regulatory compliance. Participating in standards development would position Horizon to align our operational protocols with emerging requirements while potentially influencing industry direction in ways that recognized our specialized expertise. That evening, I hosted a strategic dinner with the Meridian Partnership team and potential Charleston operational allies at the harbor's premier restaurant. The setting offered dramatic views of the commercial shipping channels that would soon accommodate Horizon's expanded specialized transport services. As conversation flowed between technical discussions of temperature-controlled cargo systems and broader strategic visions for specialized pharmaceutical transport, I reflected on the extraordinary transformation of the past year. From the devastation of discovering my depleted trust fund to building a nationally recognized specialized shipping operation, the journey had unfolded with unexpected momentum and purpose. A discreet notification on my phone interrupted these reflections. An email from Margaret Callahan marked urgent. Excusing myself briefly, I stepped onto the restaurant's Harbor View terrace to review the message privately. Alexandra, Atlantic. Global Shipping has made an unsolicited offer to purchase Horizon Maritime outright. $75 million all-cash transaction proposed with expedited closing timeline. Their representatives have requested immediate confidential discussion. Details attached. Margaret. The figure momentarily took my breath away. $75 million represented nearly 10 times Horizon's valuation when I had assumed controlled just 1 year earlier. The appreciation reflected both our operational transformation and the strategic value of our exclusive harbor rights, now considerably enhanced as urban development projects neared completion around our specialized docking facilities. Atlantic Global Shipping ranked among the world's largest maritime transport companies, a direct competitor to Westbrook Shipping, with particular strength in pharmaceutical and medical transport divisions. Their interest in Horizon clearly targeted both our specialized capabilities and strategic harbor positioning. I returned to the dinner with this development carefully contained behind professional composure. The conversation continued regarding implementation timelines for the Charleston expansion, equipment specifications for specialized pharmaceutical transport, and regulatory compliance frameworks for controlled substance shipping. Later that night in my hotel suite, I reviewed Atlantic Global's detailed acquisition proposal with analytical detachment. The terms were undeniably attractive from a purely financial perspective. Premium valuation, minimal contingencies, accelerated payment. Structure. For someone who had lost a $7 million trust fund just 12 months earlier, the $75 million offer represented extraordinary financial redemption. Yet, as I considered the proposal's broader implications, its fundamentally misaligned nature became increasingly evident. Atlantic Global sought to absorb Horizon's specialized capabilities and strategic positioning into their conventional corporate structure, precisely the environment from which we had differentiated ourselves. The independent operational approach that enabled our client responsiveness and innovation would inevitably dissolve within their standardized management framework. More importantly, acquisition would terminate the purpose-driven enterprise we had carefully constructed. Horizon had become more than merely a successful business operation. It represented a different approach to value creation, one centered on specialized excellence rather than commoditized scale, on collaborative client relationships rather than transactional efficiency. I drafted a response declining the offer, with professional courtesy while establishing clear boundaries regarding Horizon's independent trajectory. This wasn't a negotiating tactic seeking improved terms, but a fundamental philosophical position. Horizon Maritime wasn't for sale at any price, because its value transcended financial metrics. After sending the response, I stepped onto my suite's balcony overlooking Charleston Harbor. Lights from vessels navigating the shipping channel created streaming pathways across the dark water. Among them would soon be Horizon ships carrying specialized cargo with the precision and care that had become our defining characteristic. The Atlantic Global offer had provided unexpected validation of what we had built. Major industry players now recognize the value of our specialized approach sufficiently to offer extraordinary acquisition premiums. Yet the greatest validation lay not in external recognition, but in the intrinsic purpose of our enterprise, creating exceptional maritime transport capabilities that enabled scientific advancement, medical innovation, and technological progress. 1 year after the devastating discovery of my family's betrayal, I had built something worth far more than the trust fund I had lost. The bank manager's revelation that initially seemed to represent financial catastrophe had ultimately triggered a journey of creation rather than inheritance, of earned achievement rather than entitled expectation. As Charleston's harbor lights shimmer across the water, I recognized with perfect clarity that declining Atlantic Global's $75 million offer wasn't a sacrifice but a reaffirmation. The path forward, expanding Horizon's specialized capabilities across additional ports, developing next-generation maritime protocols for sensitive materials, establishing industry-leading standards through regulatory partnerships, offered something money alone couldn't purchase: the opportunity to build an enterprise whose value extended beyond balance sheets to meaningful contribution. My grandfather's words now resonated with profound accuracy. True wealth lies not in accounts that can be depleted, but in the capacity to build what others cannot imagine. Horizon Maritime had become the living embodiment of that wisdom, an enterprise created through vision, resilience, and determination rather than financial inheritance or family connection. Whatever challenges lay ahead in our ambitious expansion, whatever competitive pressures emerged in specialized maritime transport, the foundation we had established would continue supporting growth aligned with purpose rather than merely profit. That alignment represented the most valuable asset I could possibly develop, one that, unlike a trust fund, could never be depleted without my conscious participation. 18 months after discovering my emptied trust fund, Horizon Maritime had transformed from a regional operator into an industry leader in specialized transport. Our expansion into Charleston exceeded projected timelines, with full operational capability established 3 months ahead of schedule. The Baltimore facility development progressed steadily toward its targeted launch date, with equipment installation and specialized dock modifications nearly complete. This operational success attracted increasing attention throughout the maritime industry and financial sectors. The Wall Street Journal published a feature on Horizon's innovative approach to specialized pharmaceuticals transport, highlighting our temperature-controlled shipping protocols that had become the de facto standard for sensitive research materials. Maritime Technology Quarterly named our proprietary tracking system Most Innovative Logistics Implementation in their annual industry awards. With recognition came scrutiny. Competitors began developing similar specialized transport divisions targeting our premium clients. Regulatory authorities examined our rapid expansion with increasing attention to compliance documentation. Investment analysts dissected our growth metrics, seeking evidence of sustainability beyond initial market penetration. These pressures converged during our executive leadership meeting in the newly completed Baltimore headquarters, a converted industrial building overlooking our specialized docking facility. The quarterly planning session had progressed smoothly until Daniel presented market intelligence regarding targeted competitive actions. Atlantic Global has established a specialized pharmaceutical division specifically modeled on our operational approach, he reported, displaying comparative analysis slides. After we declined their acquisition offer, they've implemented a strategic initiative to replicate our capabilities through parallel development. They've hired 3 former pharmaceutical logistics directors and secured specialized vessels with temperature control specifications nearly identical to our Pathfinder design. The development wasn't entirely unexpected. After declining Atlantic Global's acquisition offer, we had anticipated competitive response. However, the scale and speed of their specialized division deployment exceeded our projections. Martin Callahan studied the competitive analysis with characteristic pragmatism. Imitation confirms the value of our model, but their implementation timeline suggests internal information beyond public knowledge. They've advanced specific technical elements that required months of proprietary development in our system. The implication was clear. Someone with detailed understanding of our specialized protocols had shared information with Atlantic Global after our acquisition rejection. The competitive threat extended beyond normal market dynamics to potential confidentiality breaches. We should conduct an information security review, suggested Margaret, who had recently completed specialized compliance training in preparation for our expanded operations. Identifying vulnerability points would help protect our remaining proprietary advantages. As discussion continued regarding competitive response strategies, my attention was drawn to another concerning data point in Daniel's market intelligence report. Atlantic Global had initiated negotiations for docking rights adjacent to 3 of our exclusive harbor locations, apparently pursuing a strategy of proximate competition in our highest value shipping corridors. These locations don't offer our specialized access advantages, I noted, examining the harbor maps. But establishing operations immediately adjacent creates perception of service parity for potential clients evaluating options. Their positioning for direct competition specifically targeting our premium client base. The recognition crystallized our strategic challenge. Horizon's rapid success had transformed us from niche regional operator to competitive threat warranting targeted response from industry leaders. Our specialized approach, once dismissed as insufficiently scalable for serious consideration, now faced deliberate replication by established maritime giants with substantially greater resources. This isn't just about Atlantic Global, Daniel added, advancing to his next analysis slide. 3 additional major shipping corporations have established specialized divisions within the past quarter. Our market differentiation is narrowing as competitors adopt elements of our approach. The convergence of these competitive developments created genuine strategic threat. Horizon had established market leadership through innovative specialization, but maintaining that position against multiple resource-rich competitors would require evolution beyond our current capabilities. We need to advance to the next generation of specialized transport before they can fully replicate our current model, I concluded, redirecting the conversation toward forward advancement rather than defensive positioning. What's beyond temperature-controlled pharmaceutical shipping? What's the next frontier in specialized maritime transport that we can pioneer? This reframing energized the leadership team, shifting focus from competitive threat to innovation opportunity. Over the next 3 hours, we explored emerging possibilities in specialized maritime transport that aligned with Horizon's core capabilities while establishing new differentiation from follower competitors. Dr. Elise Sharma joined the discussion, remotely from Meridian's research facilities, providing invaluable perspective on emerging pharmaceutical transport requirements. The next generation of biopharmaceuticals includes live cell therapies requiring not just temperature control, but biomechanical stability throughout transport. Current shipping methods compromise cellular integrity through vibration patterns that disrupt therapeutic efficacy. This insight opened exploration of completely new specialized transport protocols, focusing on vibration-minimized shipping for next-generation therapeutics. A specialized need existing maritime options couldn't adequately address. Our engineering team immediately began conceptualizing modified vessel designs, incorporating advanced stabilization systems originally developed for scientific research vessels. Additional innovation opportunities emerged throughout the brainstorming session. Secure transport protocols for developmental quantum computing components whose calibration required extreme environmental stability. Specialized handling systems for experimental energy storage technologies whose transport parameters exceeded conventional safety frameworks. Dedicated maritime routes for time-sensitive regenerative medicine materials, requiring precisely coordinated multi-point delivery. By session conclusion, we had outlined 5 potential next-generation specialized transport initiatives that built upon our existing capabilities while establishing entirely new service categories competitors would struggle to replicate quickly. The most promising centered on creating the first maritime transport system specifically designed for personalized medicine components, an emerging field requiring unprecedented coordination between collection points, processing facilities, and treatment centers. As the leadership team departed with implementation assignments for our innovation initiatives, I remained in the conference room reviewing strategic options with Daniel. The intensity of competitive response to Horizon's success had accelerated. Our development timeline, compressing what might have been years of gradual evolution into months of accelerated innovation. Atlantic Global's specialized division launch actually creates opportunity, Daniel observed, analyzing market positioning data. Their imitation validates our model while allowing us to advance beyond current specifications before they achieve operational parity. If we move quickly enough, they'll find themselves replicating our previous generation capabilities while we establish entirely new service categories. The strategic principle resonated with lessons from my investment analysis background. Market. Leaders maintain position through continuous innovation rather than defending static advantages. Horizon couldn't preserve differentiation by protecting current protocols. We needed to advance specialized maritime transport into new frontiers, while competitors worked to match our established capabilities. This recognition clarified our capital allocation priorities. Rather than expanding current operations across additional ports, our previous growth strategy, we would now focus investment on developing next-generation specialized transport capabilities within our existing geographical footprint. Creating unprecedented service offerings would maintain premium positioning even as competitors replicated our current specialized approaches. As evening settled over Baltimore Harbor, I watched dock workers preparing our newest vessel for its maiden voyage, the first Horizon ship dedicated to Baltimore operations, representing our successful geographical expansion. The achievement deserved celebration, yet already our strategic horizon extended toward more ambitious innovations. My phone displayed a notification from Jason Winters, another development in the ongoing Westbrook legal proceedings. I hesitated before opening it, recognizing how thoroughly my attention had shifted from family financial drama to Horizon's strategic challenges. The Westbrook situation remained consequential, but increasingly peripheral to my daily focus. The message contained settlement terms from Quantum Sphere bankruptcy proceedings. Creditors have accepted reorganization plan requiring conversion of outstanding liabilities to equity stakes in remaining patent portfolio. Your potential recovery from trust fund transfers estimated between $900,000, $1, $2 million depending on ultimate patent valuations. The figures, representing perhaps 15% recovery of my depleted trust fund, seemed remarkably insignificant compared to the value creation we had achieved through Horizon's development. The $7 million that had once seemed life-altering now represented merely capital that might accelerate our innovation initiatives rather than fundamental personal security. This perspective shift reflected the profound transformation of the past 18 months. The devastating trust fund betrayal had catalyzed development of capabilities and creation of value I might never have discovered otherwise. The bank manager's revelation, initially appearing catastrophic, had ultimately redirected my path toward greater achievement and more meaningful contribution than passive wealth management could have provided. As I prepared to leave the Baltimore facility, Martin approached with an unexpected update. "Alexandra, we've received communication from Western Regional Medical Group. They're developing personalized oncology treatments requiring precisely coordinated transport between 6 specialized facilities. They've heard about our pharmaceutical handling capabilities and want to discuss creating a dedicated transport protocol specifically for their therapeutic development process." The timing seemed almost prescient, a practical opportunity to implement the next-generation specialized transport concept we had just identified as our strategic direction. The synchronicity reinforced my growing recognition that opportunities consistently emerged when we focused on advancing capabilities rather than merely protecting current advantages. "Schedule a preliminary needs assessment immediately," I directed. "This aligns perfectly with our innovation initiatives. We'll need to involve engineering, compliance, and specialized handling teams from the beginning to develop comprehensive protocols beyond anything currently available in maritime transport." That night in my Baltimore apartment overlooking the harbor lights, I drafted comprehensive implementation guidelines for our innovation initiatives. The competitive pressures that might have seemed threatening instead provided productive urgency, accelerating our evolution toward next-generation specialized capabilities. My grandfather's model ship, the Lady Elizabeth that had launched the original Westbrook shipping empire, sat on my desk as a reminder of maritime heritage reinvented through specialized purpose. What had begun as emergency refuge following trust fund betrayal had evolved into purposeful enterprise creating unprecedented value through specialization and innovation. The journey from devastation to creation had unfolded through continuous forward movement rather than backward fixation. Each challenge, from initial financial betrayal to current competitive pressure, had triggered advancement rather than constraint, revealing opportunities invisible from previous perspectives. Tomorrow would bring new competitive developments, operational challenges, and implementation hurdles. Yet the fundamental trajectory remained clear. Horizon Maritime would continue evolving beyond conventional maritime parameters, creating specialized transport capabilities that enabled scientific advancement, medical innovation, and technological progress. The path forward extended not toward recovering what had been taken, but toward creating what had never existed. Specialized maritime capabilities, serving emerging needs competitors hadn't yet recognized. In that creative trajectory lay the most valuable lesson from the past 18 months. True security comes not from protecting what we possess, but from continuously developing what we can uniquely provide. 2 years after the bank manager's life-changing call, Horizon Maritime stood at a pivotal moment in its evolution. Our specialized transport capabilities had advanced far beyond the humble regional operation I had inherited, with our fleet now comprising 7 vessels specifically designed for high-value, sensitive cargo transport. Our exclusive harbor locations operated at near capacity, servicing clients ranging from global pharmaceutical developers to quantum computing research facilities. The Western Regional Medical Group partnership had evolved into our most significant operational achievement, the first maritime transport system designed specifically for personalized medicine components. The protocol we developed enabled viable transport of patient-specific treatments between research facilities, processing centers, and treatment locations while maintaining cellular integrity throughout the journey. This specialized capability had directly contributed to successful clinical trials for previously untreatable conditions, creating value that transcended conventional business metrics. This success had established Horizon as the unquestioned leader in next-generation specialized maritime transport. While competitors had replicated elements of our earlier protocols, our continuous innovation maintained substantial differentiation in the highest value market segments, where precision and reliability justified premium rates. On this milestone morning, I stood before the assembled Horizon leadership team in our expanded Providence headquarters to present the most significant strategic decision in our company's evolution. For 2 years, we've built Horizon Maritime around a central philosophy, I began, addressing the 23 division leaders representing our expanded operations. We've prioritized specialized excellence over generic expansion, focusing on creating unprecedented capabilities rather than simply scaling existing services. This approach has generated extraordinary results by any measurement standard. The presentation screens displayed our performance metrics: 347% revenue growth since acquisition, 42% operating margin compared to industry average of 11%, 0 client loss despite targeted competitive recruitment, and a workforce that had expanded from 27 to 189 specialized professionals, earning compensation packages averaging 32% above industry standards. Today we face a strategic decision that will determine Horizon's next evolution phase, I continued. The specialized transport sector we pioneered has attracted significant attention from both strategic operators and financial institutions. In the past month alone, we've received 3 acquisition offers and 5 major investment proposals. The leadership team shifted attentively. While most knew about Atlantic Global's previous acquisition attempt, the recent surge of interest, following our personalized medicine transport breakthrough, remained confidential between executive leadership and our investment partners. Morgan Stanley has presented a comprehensive IPO analysis, suggesting Horizon could command a valuation exceeding $500 million through public offering, creating significant liquidity while maintaining our operational independence. Simultaneously, Meridian Pharmaceuticals has proposed expanding our strategic partnership through a substantial secondary investment that would accelerate specialized fleet development while preserving our current ownership structure. I advanced to the next presentation section displaying 3 potential strategic paths. 1. Independence path. Maintain current private ownership structure with targeted strategic partnerships, emphasizing controlled growth and specialized capability development. 2. Public offering path. Pursue IPO to access capital markets, creating liquidity and expanded resources for accelerated growth while transitioning to public company governance requirements. 3. Strategic integration path. Accept acquisition by established maritime or pharmaceutical enterprise, integrating our specialized capabilities into larger operational framework while potentially accessing greater resources and global reach. Each path offers distinct advantages and challenges, I explained. Our decision should reflect not only financial considerations, but our fundamental purpose and the future impact we envision for Horizon Maritime. The leadership discussion that followed revealed the depth of commitment our team had developed to Horizon's specialized mission. Operations directors emphasized the operational freedom that had enabled our rapid innovation. Engineering leaders noted the direct connection between our independent decision-making and our ability to develop unprecedented specialized capabilities. Client relationship managers highlighted the trust we had established through consistent prioritization of transport integrity over short-term financial metrics. As the strategic discussion progressed, my executive assistant entered discreetly, placing a note before me with unusual formality. The message was brief, but unmistakably significant. Elliot Westbrook is in reception requesting immediate meeting. Says matter is urgent and personal. The appearance of my brother, whom I hadn't seen or spoken with since discovering my emptied trust fund 2 years earlier, created a discordant interruption to our critical strategic discussion. The timing seemed too precise to be coincidental, suggesting he had learned of our strategic deliberations through industry connections or financial sources. I excused myself briefly, instructing Daniel to continue facilitating the leadership discussion of our strategic options. Whatever Elliot's purpose, it warranted direct addressing rather than distracted speculation during our critical planning session. The main reception area provided immediate visual confirmation of how thoroughly my world had transformed since our last encounter. Elliot, once the golden child of the Westbrook family with his confident swagger and premium tailoring, appeared diminished in the wake of Quantum Sphere's collapse and the subsequent legal proceedings. His designer suit showed signs of age, his characteristic confidence replaced by an uncharacteristic nervousness as he paced before our corporate logo, Alexandra. He attempted familiar warmth that fell noticeably flat. "You look successful." "What brings you to Providence, Elliot?" I maintained professional composure, conscious of staff moving through the reception area. "I'm currently in the middle of a leadership meeting. That's actually why I'm here." He lowered his voice, glancing around. "We need to talk privately. It's about an opportunity that benefits both of us." The phrasing, particularly "benefits both of us," triggered immediate skepticism. Throughout our lives, Elliot's definition of mutual benefit had consistently favored his interests while presenting token advantages for others. His appearance now, amid Horizon's strategic deliberations, suggested opportunistic timing rather than coincidental urgency. Nevertheless, I directed him to a small conference room off the main reception area. Whatever his purpose, addressing it directly would eliminate distraction from our important strategic discussions. Once seated in the conference room, Elliot's demeanor shifted to the practice charm he had deployed throughout his entrepreneurial career when seeking investment or advantage. "You've built something impressive here, Alex. The entire maritime industry is talking about Horizon's specialized capabilities. Your personalized medicine transport protocol is being described as revolutionary." "Thank you. Now what's this urgent matter requiring immediate attention?" He sighed dramatically at my businesslike tone. "Always straight to the point. That's why you're succeeding where others would have failed." He leaned forward conspiratorially. "I know you're considering strategic options for Horizon. IPO preparation, acquisition offers, investment proposals. The financial community is buzzing with speculation about your next move." His awareness of our confidential strategic deliberations confirmed my suspicion that he had cultivated sources providing insider information. The Westbrook family networks apparently retained value even after the legal proceedings that had decimated their business empire. "I have a proposition that solves multiple problems simultaneously," he continued. "Westbrook Shipping has been separated from the holding company's legal issues through the court-appointed restructuring. The operational assets remain viable, but require recapitalization and modernized leadership. The bankruptcy administrator is seeking strategic investors to revitalize operations under new management." The direction of his proposal became increasingly clear, confirming my initial skepticism. "And you believe Horizon should acquire these assets?" "Exactly." His enthusiasm suggested he considered this revelation compelling rather than problematic. "It's perfect symmetry. You've built specialized capabilities that complement Westbrook's global infrastructure. Combining operations would immediately establish Horizon as a major international shipping presence while rescuing the Westbrook operational assets from potential dissolution." The audacity was breathtaking even by Elliot's standards. After participating in the depletion of my trust fund and the subsequent financial improprieties that decimated the family business, he now proposed I use Horizon's success to rescue the remaining corporate assets from consequences of mismanagement. "The administrator has authorized me to discuss preliminary terms," he continued, retrieving documents from his briefcase. "Horizon would acquire Westbrook Shipping's operational assets at significantly discounted valuation, providing necessary recapitalization while maintaining the established brand and client relationships. You would assume complete management, control with no operational interference from previous leadership. I studied my brother with genuine curiosity, wondering if he truly believed this proposal might seem attractive. "And what would be your role in this arrangement?" His expression revealed momentary discomfort before reassembling into practiced confidence. "I would serve as relationship liaison during transition, maintaining continuity with established clients while you implement operational improvements. My compensation would be structured as performance-based earnouts tied to specific retention metrics." Translation: he needed employment following Quantum Sphere's collapse and the family's financial implosion. The acquisition would provide him position and income while potentially preserving some vestige of the Westbrook shipping legacy. "What about our parents?" I asked, addressing the obvious question his proposal raised. "Where do they factor into this arrangement?" "They've been removed from operational control through the legal proceedings," he replied with practiced neutrality that couldn't quite mask underlying bitterness. "Their ownership stakes would be significantly diluted through the recapitalization structure. They would retain legacy association but no management authority or governance rights." The comprehensive collapse of the Westbrook Empire was now complete. My parents, once controlling a shipping dynasty built over generations, had lost operational control through their own financial mismanagement. My brother, once the presumed heir to the family business, now sought employment through the sister, whose inheritance he had participated in depleting. The irony might have provided satisfaction if I remained focused on past grievances. Instead, I found myself evaluating the proposal with the same dispassionate analysis I applied to all strategic opportunities. How would this potential acquisition align with Horizon's specialized purpose and future development? "I appreciate you bringing this opportunity to my attention," I said, rising to indicate our discussion was concluding. "We'll evaluate it alongside other strategic options we're considering." "That's it?" Elliot appeared genuinely surprised by my measured response. "Alexandra, this isn't just another business opportunity. This is about preserving what remains of our family legacy while creating extraordinary value for Horizon. The symmetry is perfect. You've built specialized capabilities that would be immediately enhanced by Westbrook's global infrastructure." His perspective revealed the fundamental gap in our business philosophies. Elliot viewed the potential acquisition through the lens of legacy preservation and scale acquisition. My evaluation centered on whether Westbrook's conventional shipping infrastructure would enhance or dilute Horizon's specialized excellence and purposeful focus. "We'll conduct proper due diligence and evaluate alignment with our strategic direction," I replied, maintaining professional detachment. "I need to return to my leadership meeting now. Our team will contact the administrator if we determine there's potential fit with our development priorities." As I escorted him back to reception, Elliot made one final attempt. "Mom and Dad don't know I'm here. They're too proud to admit how completely things have collapsed. But they followed your success from a distance. Dad actually said you were the only real shipping executive in the family, though he'd never admit that to your face." The information created momentary emotional complexity, but didn't alter my strategic assessment. Whatever personal reconciliation might eventually develop with my family, Horizon's future direction would be determined by purpose alignment rather than familial obligation. Returning to our leadership meeting, I found the team deeply engaged in thoughtful assessment of our strategic options. Their discussions reflected genuine commitment to Horizon's specialized mission and the unique value we had created through focused innovation rather than conventional expansion. As I rejoined the conversation, Daniel provided their preliminary consensus. "We believe Horizon's strength comes from specialized excellence rather than conventional scale. Our recommendation is maintaining independence while pursuing strategic partnerships that enhance our specialized capabilities. rather than diluting our differentiated focus. Their conclusion aligned perfectly with my own assessment following Elliot's unexpected proposal. Horizon had created extraordinary value through specialized purpose rather than generic expansion. Our future development should enhance that differentiation rather than pursuing conventional maritime scale through acquisition or integration. I fully support that direction, I affirmed. We'll maintain our independence while establishing strategic partnerships that accelerate our specialized capabilities development. This path preserves the operational freedom that enables our continuous innovation while accessing capital and relationships that enhance our specialized transport. Leadership. The leadership team's alignment around this strategic direction reflected our shared commitment to the principles that had guided Horizon's transformation, creating unprecedented capabilities rather than replicating conventional operations, prioritizing specialized excellence over generic expansion, and maintaining independence that enabled responsive innovation. As our meeting concluded, I reflected on the remarkable synchronicity of Elliot's appearance during this pivotal strategic discussion. His proposal had unintentionally crystallized exactly what made Horizon successful: our deliberate difference from conventional shipping operations like Westbrook. The contrast between his legacy-focused perspective and our innovation-centered approach couldn't have more clearly illustrated the divergent paths we had taken. The bank manager's devastating revelation 2 years earlier had initiated a journey of creation rather than inheritance, of specialized purpose rather than generic expansion. That journey had produced value far exceeding what was lost, not just in financial terms but in meaningful impact through enabling medical innovation, technological advancement, and scientific progress. Whatever challenges lay ahead in our continued evolution as an independent specialized maritime leader, the foundation we had established would support sustained development aligned with purpose rather than merely growth. That purpose-driven foundation represented the most valuable asset we could possibly cultivate, one that would continue generating unprecedented capabilities while conventional operators remained confined within traditional maritime parameters. 3 years to the day after Mr. Patterson had called me into his office to reveal my emptied trust fund, I stood at the podium in the grand ballroom of the Boston Harbor Hotel. Before me sat an audience of over 300 people: industry, leaders, investors, medical professionals, and the entire Horizon Maritime team, gathered for what the invitations had described as a strategic announcement and partnership celebration. The journey from that devastating revelation to this moment of triumph represented a transformation I could never have imagined in the depths of that initial betrayal. Horizon Maritime had evolved from a modest regional shipping operation into the undisputed leader in specialized transport for advanced medical and technological materials, creating capabilities that hadn't existed before and enabling innovations that improved countless lives. 3 years ago, I faced what appeared to be a catastrophic financial setback, I began, deliberately acknowledging the origin point of this remarkable journey. Today, I recognize that moment as the catalyst that redirected my path toward what would become the most meaningful achievement of my professional life. The audience included faces representing every phase of this transformation: Martin and Margaret Callahan, who had maintained the foundation upon which we built; Daniel Carson, whose strategic brilliance had helped navigate competitive challenges; Dr. Elise Sharma from Meridian Pharmaceuticals, whose partnership had accelerated our specialized transport innovations; and commissioners from maritime regulatory authorities who had worked with us to establish new standards for advanced materials transport. Horizon Maritime began with a simple principle: specialized excellence creates more meaningful value than generic scale. That principle has guided every decision we've made, every innovation we've developed, and every partnership we've established. The presentation screens displayed our most significant achievement to date: verifiable data showing that Horizon's specialized transport protocols had enabled successful delivery of personalized cell therapies to 317 patients across 14 medical centers during the past year. These treatments, requiring unprecedented coordination between collection, processing, and treatment facilities, had achieved remarkable success rates for conditions previously considered untreatable. Today, I'm honored to announce the next evolution in specialized transport innovation, the Precision Medicine Transport Initiative. This comprehensive program represents an unprecedented alliance between maritime transport specialists, medical research institutions, and technology developers, creating an integrated system that will transform how personalized treatments reach patients worldwide. The announcement represented months of careful negotiation and development with partners across multiple industries. Unlike conventional business alliances focused primarily on financial outcomes, the initiative centered on solving the logistical challenges preventing advanced medical treatments from reaching patients outside major research centers. Through this initiative, Horizon Maritime will expand our specialized fleet with 7 new vessels specifically designed for cellular therapy transport, establish coordinated protocols with 19 medical research facilities, and implement advanced tracking systems that maintain unbroken chain of custody documentation from collection through treatment. The screens displayed schematics of our next-generation specialized vessels, incorporating medical-grade containment systems, advanced stabilization technology, and continuous monitoring capabilities beyond anything currently available in maritime transport. These weren't simply ships. They were floating extensions of medical laboratories designed to preserve treatment efficacy throughout the journey from development to delivery. This initiative will be supported by a $240 million investment partnership structure that maintains Horizon's operational independence while providing necessary capital for accelerated capability development. I'm pleased to announce that this structure includes significant participation from the Grayson Foundation, whose mission focuses on expanding advanced medical access beyond major metropolitan centers. The investment partnership represented the culmination of our strategic deliberations following Elliott's unexpected proposal. Rather than pursuing conventional maritime expansion through acquisition, we had designed a specialized investment structure that provided development capital while preserving the operational independence that enabled our continuous innovation. I want to express particular gratitude to Martin and Margaret Callahan, whose stewardship of Horizon Maritime created the foundation upon which we've built. Their commitment to quality and integrity established principles that continue guiding our development through each evolutionary phase. The Callahans, seated in the front row, embodied the connection between Horizon's origins and its current expanded purpose. Martin had recently transitioned to advisory status, but his maritime expertise continued informing our specialized vessel designs. Margaret remained actively engaged in our operational compliance systems, ensuring our rapid innovation never compromised the meticulous attention to detail that had distinguished Horizon from the beginning. I also want to recognize our entire Horizon team, whose dedication to specialized excellence has created capabilities that didn't exist 3 years ago. Your commitment to continuous innovation has established Horizon as not merely a shipping company, but a critical enabler of medical and technological advancement. The assembled Horizon employees, now numbering over 200 specialized professionals across 3 operational hubs, represented the company's most valuable asset. Unlike conventional maritime operations that treated personnel as interchangeable components, we had developed a culture that recognized specialized expertise as our fundamental advantage. This philosophy manifested in industry-leading compensation, comprehensive professional development programs, and operational protocols that incorporated frontline expertise into continuous improvement processes. Finally, I want to acknowledge our client partners, particularly those from medical research institutions whose life-saving work depends on the specialized transport capabilities we've developed together. Your willingness to collaborate in creating unprecedented solutions has established new possibilities for patients worldwide. As I concluded the formal announcement, the audience response reflected genuine appreciation for what Horizon had accomplished. This wasn't merely corporate success measured in financial metrics. It represented meaningful advancement that expanded human possibilities through specialized excellence. The reception following the announcement transformed into a celebration of collaborative achievement. Conversations throughout the ballroom centered not on conventional business metrics, but on possibilities created through our specialized capabilities. Researchers discussing previously impossible multi-site clinical trials, now feasible through our coordinated transport protocols. Medical directors planning treatment availability for patients in regions previously considered inaccessible. Regulatory officials exploring framework adaptations to accommodate emerging specialized transport capabilities. During this celebration, I noticed an unexpected figure standing near the entrance. Jason Winters, my attorney who had handled the initial trust fund investigation and subsequent legal matters. His presence was surprising given the event's focus on maritime partnerships rather than legal concerns. "Congratulations on the initiative," he said as I approached. "Quite extraordinary what you've built in 3 years." "Thank you. I didn't expect to see you here. Is everything all right?" "Completely fine." He gestured toward a quieter area away from the main celebration. "I have information you should know. The Westbrook family situation has reached resolution." The development was relevant, but no longer central to my attention. The legal proceedings surrounding my family's financial improprieties had continued their course while my focus remained fixed on Horizon's development. "The court has approved final settlement terms," Jason explained. "Your father received a suspended sentence contingent on financial restitution to pension fund participants. Your mother avoided criminal charges through cooperation agreement. Westbrook shipping assets have been acquired by consortium led by Maritime Capital Partners." The information represented the definitive conclusion of the Westbrook shipping dynasty, the final chapter in a family business story spanning 3 generations. The empire my grandfather had built, my parents had mismanaged, and my brother had helped dismantle through misguided ambition, had now passed entirely from family control. "There's something else," Jason continued. "The trustee has identified additional recovery potential from your depleted trust. Approximately $1. $8 million may be recoverable through clawback provisions against consulting payments to Westbrook Family Holdings." The figure, representing perhaps 25% of my original trust fund, would once have seemed significant. Now it represented merely additional capital that might accelerate specialized vessel development rather than fundamental financial security. "That's positive news," I acknowledged. "Direct the recovered funds to Horizon's specialized fleet development program when they become available." "Are you certain?" "These represent personal assets distinct from your company holdings." The question reflected conventional separation between personal and professional resources. My perspective had evolved beyond this traditional boundary to recognition that building Horizon's specialized capabilities represented the most meaningful application of any resources available to me. "I'm certain. The funds will create more value advancing our specialized transport capabilities than sitting in personal accounts." Jason nodded, recognizing the consistency of this decision with the path I had followed since discovering my depleted trust. "There's one more thing. Your brother asked me to deliver this personally." He handed me a sealed envelope with simply Alexandra, written in Elliot's distinctive handwriting. I accepted it with measured curiosity rather than emotional reaction. Whatever communication my brother wished to convey, it represented an epilogue to family dynamics that no longer defined my primary identity or purpose. Returning to the celebration, I was immediately engaged by Dr. Sharma and representatives from 3 additional research institutions interested in establishing specialized transport protocols for their advanced therapeutic programs. Their excitement about possibilities created through our expanded capabilities reflected exactly why I had prioritized specialized excellence over conventional maritime expansion or family business resurrection. Later that evening, after the formal celebration concluded, I returned to my hotel suite overlooking Boston Harbor. The city lights reflected across the water where several vessels, including two bearing Horizon Maritime's distinctive markings, navigated the busy shipping channels. The site provided tangible evidence of how thoroughly my professional life had transformed from investment analysis to maritime leadership. I opened Elliot's envelope, finding a brief handwritten note. Alexandra, the consortium acquiring Westbrook. Shipping Assets has offered me position managing client relationships for North American division. Ironic that I'll be working within traditional maritime industry, while you've created something genuinely innovative beyond conventional shipping. Parameters. You've proven wiser than all of us, building something meaningful rather than merely protecting what existed before. I realize no apology adequately addresses what happened with your trust fund, but I want you to know I recognize the remarkable achievement you've created from that unfortunate beginning. Perhaps someday we might rebuild some version of family relationship. Until then, I admire what you've accomplished even from a distance. Elliot. The note reflected my brother's characteristic combination of self-interest and genuine insight. His new position represented exactly the conventional maritime role he had always seemed destined to occupy, while acknowledging my different path had created something beyond traditional industry parameters. I placed the note aside without strong, emotional reaction. The family dynamics that had once dominated my attention now seemed like distant history compared to the vibrant purpose that defined my current path. Whatever reconciliation might eventually develop would happen naturally, rather than through forced accommodation or lingering resentment. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.